Can do the countdown or anything.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, go for it.
So let's start with one thing. This is a podcast, and we feel no requirement to be objective or balanced.
Oh, are we not? Are we recording now?
Yeah, hold on one
Oh,
second.
you're not playing the intro?
I can't find it. Here we go.
Oh, sorry.
So let's start with one thing. This is a podcast, and we feel no requirements to be objective or balanced.
Whatever objective means, right? When you're talking about fundamental human rights. And that is why we can say without equivocation that we think the Supreme Court's overturning Roe v. Wade is horrific and indefensible.
So, how did it happen? How does it seem that so many people are both overwhelmed by the news and at the same time tuned out of the news?
A Reuters survey may have some clues.
And Facebook effectively pulling out of the news business may be part of the equation.
I'm Laura Fitton. This is Future Forward.
I am Stephen Rosenbaum. Let us launch. So, quite an exhausting week in the news and in tech. And I'd like to say exhilarating in the sense that it seems to have woken some people up, but and I'm not that exhilarating yet. And by the way, I am officially broadcasting from a rental car today, so if I sound like I'm on the road escaping the city of New York, that's marginally true. So Laura, I read a lot of what you had to say on various social networks over the last 48 hours. And I have to be honest, as we were putting together the rundown for the show, um, I worried that it would just be, uh, I couldn't decide if it was going to be one more thing that was going to make your head explode.
No, I think it's a great opportunity to interview a man about what men are going to do about Roe v. Wade.
Oh, I'm going to represent all male. Uh, we
I
could have
have
brought on a male guest.
I have questions. I have a lot of
All right,
questions.
all right. So I want to start with this Reuters survey. Um, it was fascinating because it essentially, and it's very tied to what the Supreme Court story. It essentially said that more and more people, and this was a survey done around the world, not just in the U.S., not a Trump survey, that more and more people are feeling so overwhelmed by this volume of news that is coming at them that they are simply checking out, and that more and more people are getting their news in little snippets, most through TikTok. As the survey, the TikTok was the big growth of news consumption, kind of inadvertent news consumption, um, and purposeful. And the reason why I think it's relevant to the Supreme Court story is, you know, the news has covered all of the steps toward where we are, as single isolated incidents. And what I mean by that is, a month ago, there was this rumored leak of the Supreme Court decision about Roe, and there was a hue and cry about who leaked it and how was it leaked and was this a great big. But then when the news came out yesterday, even though everyone knew it was coming, and everyone had every reason to believe that it was inevitable at that point. It was covered like breaking news, like somehow, golly, how did this happen? Well, you knew about this a month ago. And instead of having a month's worth of coverage about Roe, there was a 2 day story a month ago and then a breaking news story on Friday. And that I think is structurally part of the problem. Going back to Amy Coney Bryant or Mitch McConnell not allowing Barack Obama to seat a Supreme Court justice or even put one up for a vote. I mean, you know, you could do a timeline of this, you tell me, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year relentless march toward religious fundamentalism, at the highest levels of US government. And no one's covered it. Well, that's not true. There's been some thoughtful writing about it, but I'm not sure there's been any galvanized opposition to this inevitability. And by the way, I think it's going to get worse. Not sorry, listeners. I know, bummer. Tune this out. But I mean, I can write headlines for the future about headlines you haven't seen yet that are inevitable, and I'll just give you one. So when the Supreme Court um, makes interracial marriage illegal, what does that mean for Ginny Thomas and Clarence Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, he very conveniently left Loving off his list of decisions he felt in his concurrence should be revisited. Let me rewind a
Yeah.
second, though. I got a couple things to say. I got a lot of
All
things
right.
to say.
I
But
know you do.
just to this chunk. People who can become pregnant literally screamed the F word in all caps for 48 hours after RBG died. Everybody I know, that was all our posts. We were literally screaming in our posts. And most of the white men I'm connected to on social media posted about their podcast that week, talked about their next work project, posted from a sporting event. It was stark and harsh and an incredible difference because we knew right then, we knew in that moment, the Supreme Court was gone. The judicial branch was gone. And we have made it the job of people who can become pregnant to scream about abortion, just like we make housework and child raising our job, while the men coast. So I just needed to put that out there because it has disgusted me. And even now, there are some guys speaking up, some, but they are not out in the streets screaming like we are. I had basic human rights before Friday. They were not good. They were not equal human rights, but I had basic human rights. And my children had basic human rights. We do not now. As far as why Friday was shocking, because it changed. I knew from the moment RBG died. But Friday, my body shut down. And many of my friends spent a lot of time just physically feeling this in our bones. You can tell I can still feel it now. Everything about me is different. And it's like when my father died. He had, I think it was lymphoma, right? 6 years prior. And we braced ourselves to lose him then. He had weird neurological symptoms that nobody quite understood. And my siblings were like, oh, this is just, a headache. This is something. And I'm like, we could lose him. This could be the cancer back. It could have come back in his brain. We could lose him within a year. Like I was bracing myself, preparing myself. This was an 81-year-old man who'd had an incredible life. There's no way we did not see that coming. It was kind of a surprise, the exact timing. He had literally talked to his doctor the night before, and his doctor said, see you in 6 weeks. And then he died the next morning, very suddenly. But we saw it coming. We prepared ourselves. We knew. It didn't mean shit. You cannot prepare for certain things. And it turns out one of them is having your human rights stripped away. So yes, this is news, even though we've known it for so long.
So you said something provocative at the beginning, and I want to go back to it. So I'm not going to defend myself or tell you about what I did because I do think I'm an anomaly. And even if I'm not, I think that we're speaking to a larger audience. Speak to the men who are listening to this podcast. What
Get your
should they
boys.
do?
Get your boys and get in the street. There's some great advice going around, and I shared it myself, telling people who can become pregnant all the precautions they need to take now, right? Delete your period app. Be careful how and when you buy period supplies. Don't tell your doctor your last minute menstrual period. All these things for people who menstruate. And it's just like we've always done about rape. Here's how not to get raped. Here's your rape whistle. Here's your pepper spray. Here's what to wear. Here's what not to drink. Here's how to guard your drink. Why don't we scream at rapists not to rape? Why do we scream at people not to get raped? All right. So, yes, we absolutely need to help pregnant people in the states where their lives are now at danger. Their liberty is now at danger. They're going to be thrown in jail over miscarriages, which is the worst thing a person who can get pregnant can go through. I have been through one. They're awful. And they often need to be medically assisted, and it is no longer safe in so many, right? But we need everybody. This affects everybody. This is not a women's issue. This is not a people who can get pregnant issue. This is fundamental human rights.
So,
and just like I am tired of people who look like me having to do most of the dishes, most of the housework, most of the child rearing, most of the emotional labor at work, I am sick to death of us having to do the heavy lifting. And forget, like, I am a white woman. You know who's really been doing the work on this? You know who's really been living in the Handmaid's Tale reality is women of color and people of color who can get pregnant. We need to get in line behind them, lift them up, and we need to reverse this decision ASAP.
Okay, but I want to be practical. I hear you, but I don't understand what reverse this decision means. I mean, the bottom line is you've got Amy Coney Bryant, going back for as long as anyone can research, has been a right-wing fundamentalist, anti-abortion. I mean, she's not going to. We're not going to change her vote.
There are other ways to make a thing legal than the Supreme Court, and leaving Roe as simply a precedent hanging in the wind for 50 years was irresponsible.
All right, good. This is what. So what? When you say get out in the streets, we're talking about a law that would then. Well, how does that? So
well, get out in the streets. No, get out in the streets means protest as loud as, if not louder than, people who can get pregnant. We need you guys.
Okay,
there's no excuse
100%.
not to be, right? It's not like, oh, look, there's 3 guys at the protest. Aren't they great? Right? Get your guys and get them together and get them to vote differently and physically get them in the streets yelling as loud as we are until they are. I'm like, show me.
All right. So I'm going to make a list and you tell me what I'm getting wrong. So the first thing is I believe that the midterms have to be a referendum in which any politician who you're considering voting for says, well, I maybe disagree with the Supreme Court, but I wouldn't go again. I'm not going to look for like anyone who's not willing to draw a line in the sand and say, this is wrong. Women's rights have to be repaired. If you vote for me, I'm going to do that for you in Congress. Human rights should at the end of the day, they don't get my vote. And that theoretically makes the midterms a referendum on human rights. That's soon.
Nice. It would be great if we could do better on the midterms. The midterms are far away, and the midterms are subject to gerrymandering.
Okay, so
women's lives are in danger right now.
Okay, next question. There, again, this is going to be, I guess, a little bit of a grim podcast, but let's go there. What are the things that
my life
you believe?
Grim.
Yeah.
What are the things lives are grim? We live in a dystopian future. We all thought, we watched all these dystopian movies and we read all these books, like all of us, and we had this mass delusion that the dystopian future would always remain in the future. Here it is.
So what's going to happen next? What are the next? We know if you dig into the decision, which the media has reported very lightly, that there are a series of next precedents that are going to be under attack.
Yeah.
So LGBTQ rights, trans rights, interracial marriage.
Because 3 of the 6 justices behind this decision committed perjury and therefore made it onto the court, we're now living in a theocracy. And that means all those other rights are going away too.
So
if they have the power to.
buried
But there are
in
3 branches of government.
so buried in that decision, there was also some discussion about birth control.
Mhm.
Does any? I mean, maybe that's the thing that sends the wake up call, which is that like we're going to make. I guess I don't even understand.
I'm sorry. Wait, that's the thing?
Well, if you're trying to get men to pay attention and you believe they haven't for a long time, then
Factually, they haven't. You believe they haven't. You can look at the numbers. And I'm not trying to get men to do anything. Men should be doing this on their own. And they're not.
I'm looking
We
for
lost
action.
our fundamental human rights, and men are not in the streets screaming about it, and that's a problem. That's what I'm saying.
Laura, I'm looking for action items.
Yeah,
we are in violent agreement on this.
I know.
But I want to be able to, like, if you think there are people that are not activated, getting angry at them isn't going to activate them. I mean, I posted something on LinkedIn and got
what I'm saying. No, I'm not saying. I'm saying it's not my job to activate them.
okay. So
it's not anybody who can get pregnant's job to activate the men. It is the men's job to activate the men.
Okay, I take that challenge on.
Thank you.
I posted something very pointed on LinkedIn and have gotten hundreds of vicious comments.
Yeah, and that's how we've always lived our lives. People of color, marginalized people. That is our normal. That is not cancel culture. That is the life we have always lived and how we have always experienced the world. So, like, welcome in and have a seat. This is just our reality.
So I have a question for you that you may not know the answer to.
Yes, I'm sure I don't.
So the two things. There's been all this talk about why Biden hasn't gone after the filibuster. I know the answer to that. I don't put a, but there is some process by which we could add seats to the Supreme Court. I don't understand it. I've been trying to Google it. I've asked people on various social networks to explain it to me. I can't get a straight answer.
Well, in the case of Social Security, it was just a staring contest. He said, I will add seats. And they went, oh, okay. I don't know how that worked. I haven't read the history, right? But
it seems like if we're not going to change, so your point is we're not going to change the Supreme Court, but we can actually impact Congress and there can be laws. But maybe I misunderstand the basic nature of the 3 arms of government. So Congress passes a law that says women have the right to have people have the right to control healthcare of their own bodies. And
weird, right?
Right. So and then the president signs it. And then someone sues saying the law is unconstitutional. And then we're back at the Supreme Court with the same right-wing theocracy crowd that says, sorry, this breaks, I mean, isn't that cycle where we end up?
Don't you think my human rights are worth the fight?
No, I want, yes, I'm trying to pick a fight that we have a version of winning, which is why I'm saying more seats on the Supreme Court to balance the court seems like a fight worth fighting.
More seats and impeachment for perjury. But we can't have impeachment because we need 67 votes in the Senate. We don't have 67 votes in the Senate, and we have the filibuster. The filibuster, which, by the way, is directly tied to white supremacy. We have an enormous white supremacist problem in the US right now. And the white supremacists have unfortunately seized control of the judicial branch of government. That is a huge problem. That has been a huge problem, and that's going to continue to be a huge problem until it's fixed. Everything else is just symptoms, telling women how to stay safe from being put in jail or killed, like.
I thought your point about all the things we teach women to do to not get raped was poignant and spot on. You're right. I mean, that's nobody can debate when you lay those facts out with that clarity. I don't know how any of our listeners can say, no, Laura's wrong. We should just do a better job of teaching women how to test for date rape drugs in their drinks. I mean,
That's
it.
what we've always done. We've just put the work on the victims. And we do that in so many spheres of public life, right? The NFL did it to Kaepernick. It's just there's
So
there's a lot of work to be done, and we've been making the most vulnerable do it. And until the most powerful feel as motivated and as urgent about this work as the most vulnerable do, we're gonna keep churning.
all right. So not that I want to continue to go down what is a bleak road, but I think we have to continue a little further. So there are a whole lot of people posting on Facebook, if you need to come visit me in my state, which has rights
Yeah,
for all people, I will
don't do
pay for
that.
your.
Don't do that. Find the abortion funds. Find the people who are actually in the trenches who know how to do the work safely. Volunteer privately through them. Right? You don't want to make someone a target because they reached out to you, and you don't like the people in that situation who need to get out of their state safely need to do it in a secure manner with the right kind of educated people, like not educated intellectually, but know the work and have been doing the work, know how to do it safely. Because it's not safe to just, like if you say, hey, I've got a house in upstate New York, you can come. The person who needs that help doesn't know you from a hyper conservative who's going to try and trap them. So
Well, even if it's well,
abortionfunds.org is a great place to find the groups near you who are doing the work. I would reach out to local clinics if you live in a safe state. This is actually something I've been doing the research in the last 2 days to figure out how to do for Massachusetts and Maine, because I can provide housing. But I don't want to throw that out there. Well, I guess I did just throw it out there publicly, but you know what I mean, right? I don't want that. It's not a safe way to do it. You have to do it through the correct sources who've been doing the work and know how to keep the people safe.
share the links you've found with me, and I'll put them in the show notes. But
Abortionfunds.org.
I know I'm not
Yeah.
typing because I'm.
Yeah.
So, but I think.
And remember that, telling people not to get raped, i.e. telling people how to get the safe abortion, is not the same as standing up and just changing the problem, which is what we need to find the spiritual, emotional, intellectual, political courage to do. Not like hand wavy, everybody vote in midterms. Like we're so far past that. Yes, that's also important.
All right. So at the risk of having you tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, tell me why the medically induced the abortion pill doesn't change the balance of where abortion fits into healthcare.
Well, we hope it helps, but it's not guaranteed that you're going to be able to get that securely. It's not guaranteed that you're not going to be held legally responsible for that. And boy, there's this crazy monkey wrench that throws in the works, which is knowing that that's out there. The people, this is a hunt. This is a hunt of people who can become pregnant. The people committing the hunt can use the presence of that to go after any woman miscarrying, any person miscarrying. Like, oh, they probably took the pill. Right?
And again,
there are people in jail for miscarrying now already, even before Friday.
So my are the pills are they dangerous? I don't know how they work. I don't know what they do.
I think they're quite effective. My understanding is that they're quite effective, that medical virtual abortions became not a big thing. That's a horrible way to say it. Became an important thing during the pandemic, where physical access to healthcare was more limited. There's just so much about pregnancy that most people just have no idea about.
There've been all these posts in my feed about vasectomies, reversible vasectomies.
Every unwanted pregnancy is caused by irresponsible male ejaculation. Every single one. Women can, people who can become pregnant can have 50 orgasms a day and never get pregnant. It's that one thing, so I don't even want to go down that road right now because I will. Anyway.
No, so
Oh, I forgot what I was going
No,
to
no,
say. Oh man.
no. Listen, this is important, and I'm glad. Like, so there's lot. The answer is there's not nothing to do. Let's start with
No,
that. Getting out
there's
on the streets.
absolutely not nothing to do.
All right. Well,
Yes.
so I'm going to start a list. So getting active, raising your hand, being public, talking to your young men, understanding alternatives, donating to organizations. I do think that you're exactly right that this idea that there's a divided country where some states you can get an abortion and some you can't is not going to stand. They're
Come
already moving to make it illegal everywhere. Which, by the way, just to talk politics for 1 second, or maybe this is all politics. I don't understand this whole states' rights. Like, this right wing group wants states to have rights, except New York
I
now is going to have
understand
people.
it. I
Yeah,
understand
except
it
but they
because it's
don't
not
mean it.
states' rights. It's another lie. It is
Yeah,
another lie. It's not states' rights, right? The gun thing happening at the same time as the forced birth thing is not a coincidence.
nope.
When you start digging into why did 53% of women vote against their own self-interest, I want to see stats on child marriage, domestic violence, and the 53%. It's they want to have hidden guns everywhere because it's just I'm going, there's so many dark places that I'm trying really hard not to go.
Well,
Um
but I think it's all. Listen, I think it's important to understand that what you're talking about is minority rule in this country. You're talking about. I mean, America's collective belief that abortion should be legal is statistically provable.
yeah, America's
So
collective belief about most things the Republican Party is trying to get done, right? And the reason the GOP has gone so deeply to the extreme, aside from, lots of Russians spent lots of money to stoke chaos here, which, hey, it's working, is they had to go this extreme to get enough votes to stay in power despite not having the numbers anymore. They had to gerrymander to stay in power despite not having the numbers anymore. They have to repress votes, especially votes from people of color, to stay in power because they do not have the votes anymore. What we're setting up for as a dystopian society now, because we are in one, I'm scared, right? Like open carry of guns to oppress people who can get pregnant. It's not a coincidence. And none of this is about reducing abortions. We know how to reduce abortions. And the people fighting against abortion fight those things too. And one
so
other point of view that I was surprised took me 50 years to hear about was one of the big pieces in the abortion battle is not just to control, literally the people who get pregnant. It's to control primarily white women by telling them all these elaborate lies about what abortion is.
yeah,
All these elaborate lies about to control them because they love babies. It's an attempt to control them too by scaring them into voting for stuff they would not otherwise vote for. And people in this country don't know jack about pregnancy. When those 6-week pregnancy bans started rolling out, I remember asking on Twitter, how pregnant is somebody who is 6 weeks pregnant? And people had no idea. Right. And I ran through, I can't recite them off the top of my head, but I ran step by step through the numbers because everything's a range and everything's very variable, even for a person who has very predictable menstrual cycles. Right. You can be as little as like 2 weeks since implantation. Easily. The extreme cases can be even less than that. They can be a few days when you're 4 to 6 weeks pregnant. When you're 4 to 6 weeks pregnant, that like heartbeat nonsense. I was pregnant with twins. I do not have twins. And one of the, you start seeing those clusters twitch. You can see them twitch on the ultrasound at 6 weeks. And then at my 9-week, I could see, I looked up at the ultrasound and the doctor very quickly skirted away from one of the embryos. And I was like, that cluster of nerves, muscle, cells It's not twitching. That is so common. Pregnancy loss before 12 weeks is so common. That is why they won't even do an ultrasound in most cases until 12 weeks. I was having one because it was an in vitro. It is so common. And every single one of those people is now in danger of being thrown in jail for something the body normally does. You are 2 to 3 weeks pregnant before you even ovulate. The way we measure pregnancy is so archaic. It's based on, we don't trust people who can get pregnant. So we're just going to start counting from the last time they were actively bleeding. Again, everybody's different. It takes a while to develop the egg, release the egg to travel, the egg to get inseminated. It's still traveling even after conception until it implants, which, and then don't even get me started on ectopic pregnancy. If men could get pregnant in, that little seminal vesicle that goes from, I won't get graphic here, right? Little tiny. If you could get pregnant in that and you knew that pregnancy was going to blow it up and kill you, that's what an ectopic pregnancy is. And you have these like extremists saying we should cut those out and transplant them because medicine can do everything. And how dare a woman not carry her ectopic pregnancy, or a person not carry their ectopic pregnancy? I mean, none of it is based on honesty. It is based on lies. And it's exhausting. It is exhausting to live in a body that was just ruled not worthy of the most basic fundamental human rights. That's all I got.
Thank you for sharing and for being not just angry, but publicly angry, which I know is hard and brave. And, I, I, I hear what you're saying to the men in our audience, and I won't forget it. And, um,
I want to see a world where they're angrier than I am, because this affects them. This is not like, don't send your daughter to school in those states, to college, right? This is any child of yours that can get pregnant or get someone pregnant is going to be in danger going to school in those states. And fleeing from those states doesn't fix it either, because that abandons these massive vulnerable populations, again, predominantly people of color, who are already poor, who already get terrible health care, who are already most at risk of the kinds of complications for which abortion is health care, because it is. We can't just abandon them, but we need to economically put the screws to those states. No conventions, no new facilities, shut down the plants you have if you need to, until we can get this fixed at a federal level. We need all guns blazing. What a terrible metaphor to use this week.
All right, I'm
to
going to
get
let you
these
go.
states to not commit atrocities. It's not a lot to ask. You should be angry about those atrocities and the lack of human rights. Thank you.
I'm not going to play the show graphic ender because it seems unnecessarily upbeat and chirpy after the conversation we just had.
Thanks for the chance to share my truth.
See you next week.
Take care.